Bulverism. Bulverism. Hello, everyone. My name is Al Person. I hope you enjoy these videos. This is my third recording of the day. On my other two topics, I'm a little on the tired side, but I just really find these a hoot. So what is bulverism? Let's just put this back up on the screen for a quick moment here. Bulverism is a logical fallacy. Now, the reason for this channel or this playlist is to do a basic discussion of logical fallacies. Now, I'm not starting with the most common logical fallacies that we see all the time, but with those that are on the outside and moving in. And the reason really has to do with the fact that I'm a little bit distorted in the way that I see the world, I guess. I don't know. But some of these really fascinated me. Then I thought, okay, let's just share what I know for the fun of it. So this is not technical logic. Technical logic is far more highbrowed, way above my pay grade. This you might call boots on the ground logic. The reason that I like to know the logical fallacies is I like to know if I'm still sane. I like to know if I'm speaking in contradictions or if I'm not making sense. The famous theologian R.C. Sproul said, even God cannot understand a contradiction. And I don't know if he made that, if he came up with that or he quoted it, but it's where I first heard it. If I'm involved in a logical fallacy in my own mind, then I'm in a spot of bother. It's also a useful tool to know basic logical fallacies. These are useful tools in keeping conversations on track. You ever noticed how conversations can get off track or they can get angry or heated, and you realize that one or the other party, maybe yourself or the other person, is indulging in logical fallacies. And once you identify that, you can drive the conversation back to the point. This is particularly useful in written discussions where you're sharing opinions. So the purpose of debate is not to prove that you're right. It's to seek truth. Okay? And the audience then would be able, if an audience is involved, to see who makes the better presentation. It's not to prove that you're right. Most people go into discussion to prove that they're right. It's really the wrong attitude, and it puts a bit of weight in the discussion that shouldn't necessarily always be there. Now, sometimes, of course, you are absolutely right, and it's easy to do. Not always, though. I need to introduce you to the definition, a folksy, a street definition of bulverism, and then going to introduce you to a young boy, and he will explain what's going on here with this, the street definition. Bulverism is a logical fallacy in which, rather than proving that an argument in favor of an opinion is wrong, a person instead assumes that the opinion is wrong, and then it goes on to explain why the other person held it. It is essentially a circumstantial ad hominem argument. The term bulverism was coined by C.S. Lewis. It's very similar to Antony Flou's subject-motive shift. So, if you want to get to the high end of logic, then you want to go and read Antony Flew and people like him who do this. But for us, these are just useful tools to help us understand what's going on. Now, bulverism is one of the most common logical fallacies in existence today. First of all, let's have a look at Ezekiel. And not the Bible Ezekiel, but a boy named Ezekiel Bulver. This is a quote from C.S. Lewis. In the course of the last 15 years, I've found this vice so common that I've had to invent a name for it. I call it bulverism. Someday I'm going to write the biography of its imaginary inventor, Ezekiel Bulver, whose destiny was determined at the age of 5, when he heard his mother say to his father, who had been maintaining that 2 sides of a triangle together were greater than the third. Right? That's what the father was saying. The mother said, oh, you say that because you're a man. At that moment, Ezekiel Bulver assures us, there flashed across my opening mind the great truth that refutation is no necessary part of argument. Assume that your opponent is wrong and explain his error, and the world will be at your feet. Attempt to prove that he is wrong, or worse still, try to find out whether he is wrong or right, and the national dynamism of our age will thrust you to the wall. I love the way C.S. Lewis writes. Bulver realized you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove that you're right or wrong. You don't have to go after facts or details. All you have to do is assume that your opponent is wrong, for whatever reason, and you'll win it. Let's see exactly what Lewis said down here. There flashed across my opening mind the great truth that refutation is no necessary part of argument. Now, of course, he's wrong here. This is incorrect, but this is what the little boy is thinking. Assume that your opponent is wrong and explain his error, and the world will be at your feet. Well, where do you see that? Where? Well, you might hear something like, you're just a feminist because you hate men. Okay? That's bulverism. Or it's a kind of a street bulverism. It's quite simplified. You are attempting to discuss feminism with someone who might want to debate its details and its right or wrong, its moral weight, its value, and so on. But you say, because you hate men, you're a feminist. Bam. You think that you've won the discussion or the argument. You may have put the feminist back on her back foot. And of course, the audience will immediately say, that woman hates men. Or you just like traditional women because you like to oppress women. You just like your wife to cook and clean because you like to oppress women. Or whatever. You don't want your wife to work. You want her to stay home, look after the children because, you want to. Okay, that's the opposite argument here. And then you say, oh, look, that's bulverism in action. Now, you could you see this in theology here. Here's a definition I found. I quite like this one as well. You only believe in God because you can't face life without an imaginary big daddy to turn to. And I have had people tell me that. You're a Christian because you just need a crutch. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't need a crutch. I need an iron lung. Let me say that again. I don't need something just to help me from limping. I need to know that there's someone who guarantees my every breath and heartbeat. The warmth of every cell in my body. That's what I need. It's what you need too. Okay, but you understand where they're going with that argument with bulverism. Or you only disbelieve in God because you want to get away with doing whatever you like. Now imagine where that conversation will go now. We've driven away from whether or not there is an ontological argument for the existence of God, or whether maybe using the Kalam argument or a presuppositional argument, which we talk about those things, for the existence of God, or the evolutionary argument against. Instead of doing that, what we've done is we've simply gone out and thrown stones at what a person believes, assuming they're wrong, and then saying the position they're holding is to be interpreted in the light of my suspicion about that person. Okay? That's bulverism. And this is really, really so common in the 21st century. It's particularly common in social media. You don't want to raise taxes because you are, associated with some bad political person years ago. Or you just do this because, you are fond of Karl Marx, or you're this or you're that. Now, those people might be fond of Karl Marx, or they might be fond of Karl Marx's opponents. The point of the matter is that this is not the way to get to the bottom of the discussion. Bulverism simply, very, very simply, points to or assumes the error of the person making the argument. I hear it all the time. Again, on social media, you hear it constantly. Once in a while, you get it in church, or once in a while, you get it in a theological argument. You just believe in the rapture because you can't wait to get away from the earth. Now, I don't believe in the rapture, but it could be said. Or you're a theological Trinitarian because you have to worship three gods, which is also, baloney. But the moment someone makes an accusation like that, the person in the audience may be moved. It's a little bit like you've poisoned the well, and we're going to talk about poisoning of the well later. Okay, so let me give you the the street definition of bulverism one more time. Then we will end. I'll put it up on the screen. I really, really enjoy this topic. And as you can tell, I'm talking fast, all switched on, empty stomach, cup of coffee, you know how it goes. But really, once you start seeing those logical flaws, those logical fallacies, you get a good chance to look at how and why you say things the way that you do, as well as the people around you. Bulverism. Bulverism is a logical fallacy in which, rather than proving that an argument in favor of an opinion is wrong, a person instead assumes that the opinion is wrong and then goes on to explain why the other person held it. It is essentially a circumstantial ad hominem argument. The term bulverism was coined by C.S. Lewis. It is very similar to Anthony Flews' subject-motive shift. You might notice how the stolen concept fallacy and the sunk cost fallacy are all in some ways, they kind of work around Bulverism, where they're all kind of related. All these fallacies have a bit of nuance and a bit of interconnection one with another. You might say, well, you only want to take this particular medication because you'll just do whatever your doctor says. Or you might say, you don't want to take a particular medication or a particular drug or supplement or whatever because you constantly resist science, right? So that same sort of thing goes on. So I think you might be seeing a pattern here. We're looking at these logical fallacies and how they influence rhetoric, how they influence what we do today. This was Bulverism. God bless you. My name is Al Person. Contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below if you wish. We will talk again soon.